There are so many different certifications that the AAPC offers. You can get certified as a coder, a biller, a compliance officer, and we have core credentials and then we have specialty credentials. I've gotten a lot of questions about the specialty credentials. So today I want to talk to you about the difference between the core credentials and the specialty credentials, and are they worth it? Hey everyone, I'm Victoria. I'm a medical coder, auditor, educator, and content creator, and on my channel I provide tips, tricks, and tutorials to help you be successful in a medical coding career. If you haven't already, I would highly encourage you to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can get alerts when I post new episodes. Let's talk about specialty credentials. If you get a specialty coding credential through the AAPC, what's it going to do for you? Are you going to have more opportunities? Are you going to get higher pay? Is there going to be more prestige? First, let me start with this. There is no order in which you have to receive medical coding credentials. So if you're someone who already works in cardiology and you know you only ever want to work in cardiology, you can just go for your CCC, the Certified Cardiology Coder. You don't have to get your CPC and then get a specialty credential. You don't have to get your CPC and then get anything else. You could get your CRC as a first credential. You could get your CIRCC as your only and first credential. There's no order or sequence in which you have to obtain certifications through the AAPC. I have known coders who just had their specialty coding certification, that they worked in cardiology and they just had their CCC, or they worked in infectious disease so they only got certified in internal medicine. One of the things that you really need to think about is, first off, is your employer going to accept that? Are they going to say, in your role as a coder, we will accept that certain credential for that specialty in your role, versus just having a CPC or a CCS or a CCSP? Or it may be that that particular manager has said they will accept it, but if there is a change of management, are they still going to accept that credential versus a core credential? Or if you change jobs, are they going to then look for that CPC or look for that COC or that CCS credential versus that specialty credential that you have? So if now you're submitting your resume or putting in applications and you just have that specialty credential, you have to worry, are those hiring managers or recruiters programmed to just look for a CPC or a CCS, and now you have something that's not that, and they're going to immediately reject your resume? The other thing to consider is, as you obtain more certifications, you're going to need more CEUs. So for one certification, you need 36 CEUs every 2 years. For 2 certifications, you need 40. For 3, you need 44, and it goes on from there for each credential, that every 2 years you have to submit more CEUs. The great news is, though, that there are a lot of free resources that you can use for CEUs. I actually have a whole video about that. You can watch it here. So things like your Healthcare Business Monthly. Now, even though your CEUs increase, your membership dues do not increase. So no matter how many certifications you have through the AAPC, your annual membership fee does stay the same. You pay the exact same membership dues every year in order to hold those credentials, but you don't pay more for them. You just have to submit more CEUs. But of course, there is the cost of taking the exam and study materials. So the exams are usually between $300 and $400. Occasionally you can find sales, maybe on Black Friday or end of the year, that you can buy a discounted exam voucher if you already have a credential through the AAPC. They do sometimes offer offers like that, so keep an eye out for those. I recommend at minimum a study guide and the practice exams. So if you're someone who's working in that specialty, you still want to get familiar with how they're going to format exam questions and exactly what type of services they're going to be testing you on. So I think the study guides and the practice exams at a minimum are phenomenal. You can often find resources through various vendors as well that they will give you training for that, and the AAPC has training for a lot of their programs online as well. But what about that ROI, your return on investment? You've invested all this time and all of this money into getting an additional certification. Are you going to see an increase in pay? Well, the first thing I want to say is the way that most employers are structured, they will not just say, oh, you have a new specialty certification, we're going to increase your pay. Congratulations, you get an extra $1 an hour. Now, there are some organizations that they will tier coders, that they have a coder 1, and maybe the criteria for a coder 1 is you have a CPCA. Maybe coder 2, you have 2 years experience and you are a CPC or a CCSP. Maybe a coder 3 has multiple credentials and X amount of years of experience. So if they're structured in that sort of format, you may see a monetary increase. But since in most cases your pay is immediately tied to what services you are providing, if you are not doing anything additional in your role to warrant an additional pay, you will not get additional money just for having that certification. They may view you a little bit different because now you have a little bit more authority, a little bit more prestige because you have those additional initials behind your name, but it doesn't always immediately transfer to an increase in pay. So it does help you sort of build your portfolio as a medical coder. It shows that you have expertise in certain areas, which if you're certified, for example, in pediatrics and you're applying for a pediatric job, that's going to make you look like a fantastic candidate. Now let's actually go on the AAPC website and I'll show you the core credentials and the specialties. We'll look up some information that they've produced in the past about the monetary differences with the credentials as well. So here we are on the AAPC website, and if you look here under certification, they have their popular certifications, which are most of what they refer to as the core credentials, but you can see they also have here them broken down between coding, billing, auditing, etc. But we're going to click here where it says view all certifications. So these are all of the certifications that the AAPC offers. So they have the CPC, the COC, the CIC, the CRC, and then there's specialty that are related to medical coding. They also have the billing certification, auditing, documentation, compliance, physician practice manager, and their instructor certification. So these ones here, the CPPM, CPCO, CDEO, soon the CDEI is coming up. CPMA, CPB, CPC, COC, CIC, CRC, those are all their core credentials. Now, you don't have to get a core credential before getting one of the specialty credentials. That is absolutely not required. But these are the different specialties that are currently offered. There's actually some that are archived as well. You can find those here on the website. One of them is one that I have, the CPRC, which is for plastic and reconstructive surgery coding. So everyone who previously obtained these gets to keep their credentials as long as they maintain their AAPC membership, but they don't actively test for them anymore because it was just too cost prohibitive for the small amount of people that wanted these certifications versus the upkeep of all of these study guides and practice exams and printing the exams and all of that sort of associated cost with it. It actually makes it kind of hard then to find CEUs for that. So chiropractic, plastic and reconstructive, foot and ankle, otolaryngology, internal medicine, and the CPCP, which is specific to payers, are no longer actively tested for. They might eventually offer some sort of educational programs for them because you know for things like dental coding or things like EHR and MACRA, they have different educational offerings that have like a certificate of completion, but they don't give you extra credentials. What they are currently offering specialty credentials for are ambulatory surgical center, anesthesia and pain management, cardiology, cardiothoracic surgery, dermatology, emergency department, E&M, family practice, gastroenterology, general surgery, hemonc, interventional radiology and cardiovascular, obstetrics and gynecology, ophthalmology, orthopedics, pediatrics, rheumatology, and urology. Now, if you look at one of them, like let's look at OBGYN, they do give you the information on what is going to be on the exam as well as the appropriate preparation materials. So it says you have to, in order to pass this exam or be proficient enough to take the exam, you have to be able to read and abstract ICD-10-CM, CPT, and HCPCS, apply modifiers, know the E&M guidelines, the rules for billing Medicare, Incident 2, teaching situations, shared visits, consults, global surgery, which is big in OBGYN. Coding of obstetric services, including the antepartum care, deliveries, and postpartum care. Coding of surgical procedures, such as hysterectomies, biopsies, colpopexies, etc. Medical terminology, and anatomy and physiology. So it gives you the exam breakdowns here. So 150 questions proctored, 5 hours and 40 minutes to complete. One free retake. It's $299 open code book. They will allow you in a lot of these specialty examinations to take an additional resource or reference for the specific specialty exam, and most of them do also allow you to take the E&M guidelines as well, or score sheets. So here under the approved references, it does tell you what you're allowed to take as far as your code books. They highly recommend your audit worksheets and the CMS documentation guidelines for 1995 and 1997, and one reference of your choice. You can also find this in the proctor to examinee instructions, which are available on the AAPC website. I'll show you how to get to those. So you click on this FAQs over here, and it's going to take you to the exam FAQs, and that's all of the FAQs for all AAPC exams, not specific to any one credential. So right here it says, what items will I need to bring the exam? And this is the list of approved resources. And it's basically the proctor to examinee instructions. These are read aloud during any AAPC exam. And here it shows you what reference materials are allowed. So the way you read this is, let's say I want to take my certification in orthopedic surgery. So how many questions are there? 150. And these are the references that you're allowed to bring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, and 10 on this list. So that is reference 1 is our CPT manual. And I'll scroll down a little bit so you can see. Reference 1 is the CPT manual. 2 is your ICD-10-CM. 3 is our HCPCS. It says we can also bring the CMS 1995 and 1997 guidelines. It also says, let's see here, orthopedic 4, 5, 9, and 10. So our E&M audit sheets. And we can also bring both volumes of the coding companion and one reference of your choice, and that does allow a medical dictionary. So not all of the examinations will allow you to take every single one of these books that's allowed, only whatever is listed here under these references. So for example, this looks like it was just updated recently, because I didn't see this 13 here before for the evaluation and management, and reference 13, it looks like, is the AAPC reference guides. This was changed not too long ago too. So for the Certified Physician Practice Manager, which is 200 questions, the only reference you're allowed to bring, it used to be you weren't allowed to bring any, but now they will allow you to bring the Practice Management Reference Guide. Now, one thing worth noting is there is a difference between the study guide and the reference guide. So if you look at the AAPC website, these are reference guides. That's not the same as a study guide. A study guide is a different type of book. So here we have one for clinical documentation reference guide. We have medical necessity reference guide. We have appeals reference guide, HIPAA. And this, let's see, if we're taking the physician practice management, this would be the one I'm assuming that they're referring to. Practice Management Reference Guide, 2nd edition. I would assume that's the one that they're referring to, not the study guide. That's a different book. So if you're on the website under books and software, this is where you find the reference guides. Those are different than the certification study guides. The certification study guides you cannot take for your exam. The reference guides you are permitted for certain certifications. Now, of course, this is all subject to change as far as pricings, as far as if you can take in person versus online, etc. So make sure that you're referencing back specifically to the AAPC website so that you have the most up-to-date information for if you're watching this video much later after I've published it. If you decide you want to take one of these specialty certifications, I would suggest going to the website and clicking here where it says prepare for the exam, and they'll list for you all of the references that they have available to study for this exam, such as the training courses, certification study guides, practice exams, and then of course you have to buy the exam itself. Now, if we look here at the dermatology coding training, they only have a study guide and a practice exam. So not all of these certifications have an online training available. So in those cases, you kind of have to self-study with just the study guide and the practice examination. So I already know what some of you are asking next. What are the associated salaries with some of these credentials? So you can see them here. They have the averages for the CPC, for the COC, some of the ones for like practice management, for the CPMA, which is your auditing. But let's talk too about these specialty credentials because they don't always have super up-to-date data on these. Now there is some salary calculators that you can kind of see if you have that certification, what the approximate salaries are in your area. The AAPC is very good at providing data for their core credentials, but when it comes to things like specialties like pediatrics, it's a little harder to find that exact information. If we look at the very bottom of the website, it does have some information in regards to specialty coders. And it says, if you're a CPC working in a specialized physician's office, consider adding specialty certification to your credentials. The median salary for medical coders with a specialty credential is $62,175, which is a little over 10% higher than the median salary for those that do not have specialty certifications. Now, while it's hard to find data comparing a internal medicine specialty certification versus a general surgery medical coding certification, if you watched my interview with Kyle Johnston, which I'll link right up here, we did discuss that one of the highest paying and most in-demand specialty certifications is the CIRCC. If you want to train as an interventional radiology and cardiology coder, you definitely want to head over to my friend Stacy Buck at radrx.com. And this is the program you want, Interventional Radiology Coding Online Training Program. If you use my code Contempo10, you can get 10% off of your purchase. But I highly, highly recommend getting your training through Stacy Buck if you're interested in the CIRCC. Personally, I think if you have a certification like the CPC and you get any other coding credential through the AAPC or through a HEMA, it will definitely be a feather in your cap and help build you in your career. It's so important to have a broad general understanding of medical coding, but when you can kind of niche down and sparkle in one specific specialty, that can really make you stand out to other employers that are looking to hire someone that can code that specific specialty. So what do you guys think? Are specialty credentials worth it? Do you have a specialty credential, or are you thinking about maybe getting another certification or a specialty credential? Definitely let me know in the comments below. By the way, if you have a question that you would like me to cover in one of my videos or one of my live streams, there is a form that you can submit that is linked as well. I will see you guys in the next video, and until then, just keep on coding on.